Do you know how deeply you get your skates sharpened? And if so, have you experimented with changing your hollow? If not, and radius of hollow is a new term to you, I strongly suggest you find out what you've been getting your skates cut at so that you can experiment later to see if the cut that you've always received is really the one that suits your playing style best. When getting your skates sharpened, you have the choice between two things: getting more grip or bite, and getting more glide. These two things lie on a continuum, so that as you give up one, you gain in the other. If you were to look at a cross-section of your blades, the channel of steel that gets removed resembles what we see as a semicircle if we look closely. The measure of how deep or shallow this channel is that lies between the two edges, inside and outside, is called the radius of hollow. You'll see that abbreviated as ROH. By default, at least in my area, if you set your skates down to be sharpened and you don't specify what radius of hollow you'd like, most shops are typically going to give you a 1/2 inch radius of hollow. It's got a good amount of grip but still lets you glide a little bit, and works for people of many skill levels and many different weights. Even if you're one of the people that a 1/2 inch works really well for, I think it's important that you know for sure that that's what you're getting, and that you try to experiment with other types of cuts that could potentially improve your game. Lately I've been surprised about the lack of knowledge around sharpening, and so I make this video in hopes that it helps at least one person kind of figure out what they get currently, or maybe encourages somebody to try experimenting with their hollows. Whether you're just beginning or you're an advanced skater like me, there may be a sharpening out there that would allow you to gain a little bit more confidence in your edges and might improve your overall play. Without a little bit of information and a willingness to try, you might never know. I wouldn't recommend you change hollows right before a big game or a tryout, but I think for most adult recreational players, changing hollows is relatively low cost and relatively low risk. If the change in hollow that you make is a total disaster, your worst case scenario is that you'll have to go back to the shop and get your skates sharpened once again. For my own playing style, I wanted to maximize for glide. The hockey that you see me playing in my other videos is a running clock of 75 to 90 minutes, and we typically have 8 to 11 players per side, so it ends up being a lot of ice. For hockey like this, I like to indulge my lazy self, and so the more glide that I can achieve, the less I'm going to feel it in my legs afterwards. I also create lots of my opportunities through my relative speed, so I like to keep that glide high as well. On the other hand, I'm a relatively small player at 5'8", 130 pounds, so there's a limit to how shallow I can go with that cut because I'm so light. In the past, I've tried 5/8 repeatedly, and while it's super fast and gives great glide, it's not enough for me when I'm pushing off or in certain tight turns. Moving to a deeper radius of 1/2 inch, I get the glide I need in almost every scenario, but in terms of skating for long periods of time, it can be a little too much for me as well. Thus, I end up using 9/16 of an inch most often, as it's a great compromise between grip and glide for my playing style and my body size. If you're heavier than me, want more glide, or are skating on super wet, soft ice, I would suggest maybe trying 5/8 or even something shallower. If you need more grip, are super light, are skating on very hard ice, or have the leg strength to use those deeper edges when stopping and turning without chattering across the ice, perhaps 3/8 of an inch or something on the deeper side would work best for you. Work your way up and down accordingly. It's important to note that radius of hollow, while kind of traditional and popular, is not the only type of sharpening that you can get. Flat bottom V, or FBV, is a shape that allows you to get both grip and glide, so that you don't have to make the compromise that you might with a traditional radius of hollow sharpening. The people that get an FPV sharpening typically swear by it, and that's what got me excited to try myself.